All right, this is part two of our interview with Julie Menanno, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is also a well-known author who's written a book called Secure Love. We sat down with her recently, and she shared some of her insights from her book. And she's also going to share with you, our audience, why attachment theory is so important and what it can do for your relationship. So let's check out that conversation. Because we put so much effort into working out. We put so much effort, time, money, resources, sweat equity into those things, getting better at our job, getting the certification of our job. And I challenge couples, how much have you invested in your relationship?
Right.
How much have you invested in yourself? Because just accept me how I am only gets you so far.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're constantly a work in progress, and you don't marry somebody to change them. No, absolutely not. But I've always been of the mindset: if you get married, you're going to change.
Yes.
You don't get married to change someone, but you're going to change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to piggyback that with, in what direction do you want to go? Up or down?
Right. And you have some say in that. If you're trying to figure this out, you have, I think what Julie and I are both saying here is you have some say. You can be intentional about it, or you can just let life kind of just blow you around like a piece of tumbleweed. You just get what you get. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to tend towards chaos unless you have some structure, unless you have some methodology in place. And we challenge couples that work with us to become a student of your partner. Listen to their heart, not just their words, listen to their heart. And become a student.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Yeah, that's really helpful to hear that it phrased in that way. I like also, are you familiar with Sue Johnson, who created?
She just passed away, I think, right?
Yeah, she just passed away 2 days ago. Yeah. One of the phrases that I really love from her is, couples are only ever saying one thing to each other, and it's, "Are you there for me?"
Wow. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a direct question. Sometimes it's an indirect question, because I'm thinking through the lens of this work. If it's an anxious person, they're going to vocalize it. If it's an avoidant person, they're going to probably show it in their actions or feelings, and they may not be able to say it.
My husband and I got into a tiff this morning because he is not a pet person. Okay. But I am. We have 6 kids. Like, our choice was, I believe it's emotionally supportive, and there's 7 of us who are pet people and 1 who's not. So we kind of lost on that one. Yeah. But so we have this rule, right, where my dog can go on our bed, but he can only go on a little corner at the bottom with a special blanket. And so apparently this morning he was kind of out of his special blanket, and my husband was grumpy. And the dog issue is already like a sensitive thing for him, even though it's been 6 years of having our dog. So anyway, his way this morning in our little tiff that we repaired from very nicely, his way of saying, "Are you there for me?" was getting grumpy about the dog being off his blanket over in my husband's zone, where he likes to do his little back exercises in the morning on the bed. So his way, and that he didn't communicate very well, was, kind of barking at me, right? Kind of snapping at me about the dog. Here, he's on my side again, or whatever it was he said. That's his way of saying, like, yeah, there's an issue with the dog, right? But the real issue between the two of us is, do you really care that this is important to me? Do you really care that I just got out of the shower and I like to do my little routine? He likes to do everything in the exact same order, and, lay on the bed and do my back exercises. And that got disrupted this morning. And do you care about that?
Yeah. It's so interesting that you bring this up, because we all have, we'll be married 20 years by June 26th. And we all have these ways that we still ask what you would think would be those first year questions, or those second year questions about, do you really love me? You don't really love me. Do you really care about me? We ask those constantly because we're human beings. It's part of the human experience. It doesn't mean that your marriage is necessarily in a failed state, or you weren't meant to be in all those. And there are those cases, right? But that's not a symptom of necessarily that something is totally wrong. You're the wrong person. Those questions over the course of time, I tell people, love over the course of time and seasons looks and feels different. It changes, it evolves, and we will have those questions and those moments of insecurity, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can override those needs for closeness and security, as well as we can override hunger.
Mm,
I mean, it is
interesting.
truly wired into us. I mean, there is a system in our body called the attachment behavioral system that is a network of neurons and hormones and all of these complicated processes, just like what we call the appetite system. We are driven. It is definitely a part of our survival, our safety. It's different in the fact that we won't just instantly physically die without it, but we will just kind of degrade into depression and isolation. I mean, you know the statistics, like people who are isolated don't live as long. And I mean, look at the movie Castaway, right, with Tom Hanks.
Mm, yeah.
He created an attachment figure for himself, and people genuinely do that, which was his, Wilson, his ball.
Hmm.
I mean, if you've
Yeah.
seen the movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but
Oh yeah. It's like
yeah,
a
when he
coconut or something, or a ball or coconut or something that
yeah,
he
it's a
drew a face
volleyball.
on, and volleyball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when he loses that ball in the storm, I mean, you're crying with him. How did this movie do this to us? That it actually helped us create a real sense of emotional feel, an attachment between him and this ball. But it did,
It did. Yeah.
because the ball was what he had. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about this. Maybe somebody's listening there saying, okay, great, I love it, I'm all in. How do I do this? Where do I
Yeah.
start? And it starts with a quiz,
Good
right?
question.
Because it started with us with a quiz. And then,
Okay.
my question for you, what quiz should they start with? And are all quizzes equal?
I'm a terrible person to ask about quizzes. Actually, I'm happy that you said that you did a quiz and it was helpful for you. As this kind of over here being in the therapy world, right? Like the quizzes that we use aren't really quizzes at all. They're lengthy inventories where we're really interviewing people to understand their attachment style. And so that's the therapist snob in me, right?
Mhm.
Um, Going, no, we can't do it. You can't distill all of this down into these
Right.
little silly, what's your Harry Potter house type of quizzes. But, but I do know that there are people out there who will benefit from them. I think there are some people who they take the quizzes and they're like, wait a minute, I feel both. But I think that probably the vast majority will help them kind of identify one or the other. From that point, you know, I think that there's some good material out there to help us know kind of it's like, okay, this helps me make sense of myself. This helps me make sense of my partner. That in and of itself, as you've probably experienced, is empathy creating, understanding creating, like, oh my gosh, they're not really just trying to hurt me or just distance from me or not care about me. This is actually their kind of weird roundabout way of trying to reach me and trying to feel safe with me. Wow, I'm so special, right? And so from there, we need to know, how to go forward. I think my book is really, I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's pretty much the only like really explicit how to out there. And it is, it's because I am a couples therapist. This is what I do. Um, but not just that, it's with attachment theory. So I'm actually like,
Yeah.
this is the work that I do all day, every day. It's a niche. I use attachment theory to help couples. So I wrote the book to just parallel this very clear how to. And if we really start with this, right? If you break all of this down to its least common denominator, we have attachment needs. The safety is created by the met attachment needs. I need to know in any given moment, I'm valuable to you. You're going to be there for me if I really need you. And sometimes people can interpret that phrase inaccurately, but emotionally speaking, we need to know that when we really need our partner emotionally, they're going to show up for us. I need to know I'm appreciated in this relationship. I need to know that my needs matter to you. And
Right.
I need to know that, you can validate my feelings, which is a part of showing up emotionally. And so now we have to figure out, okay, this is operationally what needs to happen. We need partners to know how to communicate in a way where attachment needs are being maintained. And so now we have the opposite side of that coin, which is what happens when they're not. Then what are we going to do with that? Okay. So first of all, I want to help couples maintain it. Second of all, I want to help them know what to do when it's not maintained. And the book is just very clear. It's like, okay, here, look, we call these negative cycles when moments happen where partners' attachment needs aren't met. They escalate. They go into these rigid stances. The anxious partner is going to show up with all the protests. The avoidant partner is typically going to show up with a mixture of defending, deflecting, and then just completely disengaging. And so now how do we interrupt that? That's kind of the first thing I do with couples is how do we interrupt that? And then the second thing I do is how do we prevent it by creating an attachment friendly environment where we're kind of maintaining. I'm teaching people how to emotionally validate. Like, here's really specifically what that looks like, how to create an environment of curiosity. I mean, some of the stuff that you're saying too, I'm sure you do the same exact work as I do. It's just I am really directly tying it into attachment theory.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
so, yeah, I mean, any good quality relationship help or advice or intervention is based on the principles of attachment theory, whether it's called that or not. And then I get into, just like really explicit scripts. Your partner is annoying you. Your partner doesn't want to go to therapy. And I'm trying to teach people, like, here are the attachment friendly phrasings. Like, conceptually knowing something is one thing, but having the actual words when you didn't grow up with these words to put these concepts into practice, I think could be really helpful for people.
Yeah, it's definitely you're definitely spot on. And I love so much your if you don't follow Julie on Instagram, please do. I love so much your Instagram channel because you have these really these infographics that just give you kind of a good dose of practicality. And that's what I feel like a lot of couples that we've worked with, they've tried it their way for so many different ways and so many years, and they haven't been able to get success because they don't know what it practically looks like. They may know that you're this or you're that, or we have this pain point, this issue, but I love what you said about interrupting that negative cycle and giving them
Right.
almost a playbook of sorts to
Mhm.
pull themselves out. It's like following a recipe. If I've never cooked filet mignon, or my daughter was into baking years ago and she wanted to bake macarons or whatever, and she
Uh-huh.
failed so many times, and I was like, well, look, let's figure out how to bake these. Let's get with somebody and have a recipe, follow it, but also have somebody to come alongside you and help you. It's really the same thing in relationships, is what we're saying. You started out your relationship with communication, and every relationship is staying through effective communication. And that effective communication is something you got to work at until your death day if you're in a relationship. It doesn't, because how I communicate with my spouse 20 years ago, 27 when we first got married, as a 47, how we both interact and what our needs are different over the course of time and seasons.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I even before I became a therapist, I remember developing this phrase in my head that relationships exist in communication.
Mm,
That's where they live.
mhm.
If you're not communicating either verbally or non-verbally or physically or whatever, you're not in relationship in that moment. So
Yeah,
how could we ever argue against it being a good idea to learn how to kind of thrive in that space of
yeah,
communication? That's
yeah.
love. Thriving in
It
love when
is.
you're learning to thrive in communication.
Right. And I always tell couples kind of in that same vein. I say, relationships will, if you want to improve a relationship, you want to give it oxygen, ramp up the communication. If you want to kill that relationship, throttle down the communication.
Yes.
And
Right. And
that's kind of,
well, it's interesting too because you can't throttle it down. You just don't you're still communicating, right?
Mhm.
The
Even when you're not
communication
talking.
happening. Exactly. When you're over there doing the dishes and you're grumpy and you don't even know why, and your partner's picking up the tension, you're sending signals all over the
Yeah.
place.
You're dysregulated. You just slammed the dishwasher like 3 times. Something's not right. you
Something's up.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because the avoidant partners, they don't really even know. Like, they don't even a lot of times, they don't even know they're mad. They don't even know they're slamming the dishwasher.
Yeah.
They're if you say, "Are you mad?" "I'm not mad." "Are you sad?" "I'm not sad." They're so disconnected. I love working with people with avoidant attachment because it's so fulfilling to help someone finally get to know themselves for the first time ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine just having somebody having, because you said this goes all the way back to childhood. Imagine being a 70-year-old person. And I saw a heartbreaking story the other day of this gentleman who said that I'll have to send it to you offline, but the gentleman said that his adopted dad used to beat him like every day, like physically would pound him and beat him. And he ran away one day. I forgot how old he said he was. He ran away to go find to be with his biological father and said, "Hey, this guy's beating me up." And his biological father totally rejected him, said, "I don't want anything to do with you. Get out of here. Don't ever come here again." Or something to that effect. And here's this man who had, I think he was like 75 or 80 years old. He's sitting there. He said, I always, he's crying. He's broken. He said, I always wanted to be a father, but I never wanted to be a father because I'm paraphrasing, because of what I saw growing up and how I was rejected. And
Mhm.
there was these ladies around him that just hugged him and embraced him and said, hey, you're a father. You've been a father to us. Sharing your story has been a father to us. And it's just, it was like, man, just think about carrying that weight of not knowing how to express yourself, not knowing how to get in touch with your own feelings for all those years. And
Yeah.
that's why this work is so important. This is why, if you're contemplating reaching out to Julie, following her on Instagram, you can do all kinds of things nowadays. Get her book, please. I'm telling you, this is a playbook. This is a good thing, man. And I'm not all the way through it, but I have faith and I believe, and I've followed her for several months now in their secure relationship on Instagram. And it is so powerful. You've got to take advantage of these resources, important to yourself, get better. You don't want to spend your entire life just surviving, because that's what happens when we resort to these attachments. When we have these attachment styles, it's our way of surviving and coping. It's our mechanism, but finding your way into that secure place and that secure attachment is the goal. That's the destination. We want to help you get there. That's why Julie does what she does. That's why we
Yes.
help couples in our vein. You have a village. If you're listening, you have a village. Tap into us. Don't let this be the last time you hear from us. You hear our voices. Follow us, subscribe to us, call us, email us, all the fun stuff that you can do to improve your relationship, because it is possible. We're telling you it's possible. Okay.
It's so possible. Thank you. That was beautifully put. And, people resonate with different energies and different people and different ways of disseminating this information. And, find what works for you. Find what feels right in your heart and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, real quick, I want you to complete this sentence for me. Secure attachment happens in relationships when, and I'll let you fill in the blank.
Partners are connected emotionally and feel emotionally safe with each other because their attachment needs are met. Just like you feel good when you have a meal after you've been hungry, and your body feels just safe and in homeostasis when you've had a meal.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I don't want to overlook the book. I do want to talk about that real quick. Why'd you write the book? And I think you
I
kind
wrote
of shared a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I wrote it because I really wrote it because I wrote Instagram, right? So both were kind of meant to take this information out there. I mean, I really saw this gap at the time, especially between having this knowledge of attachment theory and not really knowing, really getting good guidance as to what to do with it. I saw a lot of like, here's what it is, here's what's wrong. I knew how to do it. Those of us who are doing EFT therapy, we've been using attachment theory for decades, to help couples. So I thought, you know what, people need this information in the self-help format. And so I started Instagram because of that. And then that just kind of morphed into the book, right? And so the book is a parallel to the work I do with couples. It's the same structure. It's the same, the same work, right? But it's obviously different in the sense that it's in a book and it's written and it's self-help instead of therapy guided. But so many people out there, as you know, just don't have access to good relationship help or any relationship help. And so then to just add to this, my next thing I'm working on right now, I'm getting it dialed in. I should be starting in a few, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, is I'm doing a podcast with a couple, an actual real couple,
Yes.
20
Yes.
sessions to parallel the book. So now it's like the book is bringing the work I do with couples to life. I mean, paralleling the work I do with couples, and the podcast is meant to come full circle. Now we're going to bring the book work to life. And hopefully, if you're kind of reading the book, you can listen to this podcast, and, I'll be coming in and giving commentary and saying, here's what I'm doing with this couple. Here's where it is in the book. Like, here's, what we're going for here. So it's all, to me, it's all like that. That is feels very complete. Like my work feels very complete with these
Yeah.
3 elements in place.
Well, I'm super excited to hear that, and I can't wait. So I'll be stalking your page on Instagram. We'll be stalking and waiting and tuning in for that, and follow her and let everybody know real quick. You're on Instagram. I mentioned that. I plug Instagram. Please let them know where they can find you as far as social media platforms and what your handles are there.
Yeah, so at The Secure Relationship, all one word, on Instagram, Facebook, and then I have a website, thesecurerelationship.com. I have, you know, coaches working for me, therapists and coaches, and I do workshops once a month. There's a lot of good information there. I do a group every other Wednesday night. I just have a group that we get together and do different topics. And yeah, and then the book, Secure Love.
All right, so Julie, thank you so much for the conversation. It has been exciting. It's been energetic. I can't wait to see what else comes next from the Secure Relationship and from your work. Thank you for partnering with us, and it is glad to have another 1976 born person. The year 1976 was a good year. It's good to have another 47-year-old on the channel with his own platform, going through this life together and trying to help couples improve their relationships. So good synergy. I would love to sit down with you and talk again. Maybe I'll bring the wife on, we'll bring the spouses on, and maybe we'll have a conversation at some point. But I really appreciate your work and I appreciate your time. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you. It was great.
All right. That was it. That was an awesome conversation with Julie. Hopefully it's been impactful for you. If it has, we want to make sure that you share this with your friends and family that you know that could benefit from this. Share our channel. Subscribe to our channel. We want you to personalize and hit that bell as well so that you'll get notified when we post content like this. We believe that everybody can benefit from having a good coach and a good therapist in their corner. And so we're going to do our part to continue to create good content like this so that you can live your absolute best life. A lot of people on social media are talking about living your best life. That's great. But how do you live your best life? We want to give you the practical way and the practical means to live your best life authentically, not the fake stuff, not just the stuff you post for the gram or post for social media. We want to make sure that you are living your best life in a genuine way. That means you've got to get healed. You've got to get better. You've got to improve as an individual and also in your relationship. So my wife and I, Dana, we've been married for 20 years and we believe that it's important to improve your communication, your connection, and your affection. And we're here to help you do just that. Thanks for stopping by the channel.